Welcome to yet another session of video that we're discussing, this time shipping, and a specific topic that is something that we always want to know if you're in the shipping industry, or even if you're not in the shipping industry but you are a purchaser or you're a buyer of something, or you're a supplier or a manufacturer of something. Let's just discuss the supply chain and challenges or the trends that are going on in the supply chain. Now, usually these trends can be broken down to different levels, can be broken down to the country level, to the region level, or worldwide level. Now I'm mentioning a couple of trends that are going on worldwide, but of course you know that these trends end up affecting you in this industry, or if you're just a member of the supply chain, you just might want to know some of these trends. Because and for those who don't know the supply chain, how it runs, this is the point from manufacturer all the way to the final consumer. So this is a process that governs or makes sure the goods are moving directly from moving smoothly from the supplier all the way to the end consumer. Now, if you're the end consumer, which is most likely the companies and the businesses who are purchasing or buying goods from wherever it is all over the world and shipping them to their place where they are. Now, these are the trends that we want to discuss today. Many of us have been asking, why are my prices getting so high? Why are my costs increasing? Why are the charges to these goods that I used to buy this and this and this from just a year ago, why is it still up there? What is the problem with the lead time? How come that I've made an order and it's coming 1 month and until now we haven't received goods that usually take about 25 or 20 days to arrive? All these questions come into play and are usually affected by some or most of these factors that I'm gonna mention right here. One of them is scarcity of equipment, difficulty in getting space, also, and disruptions in many of the ports that are happening. So equipment scarcity is a big issue that is happening all over the world, but in different intervals, in different time frames. And this is, for example, I give an example what happens in Felix store just nearly a month ago. They just go back to work. This is one of the biggest ports in the UK, and there has been a strike. And when that strike happened for a week, what happened was the ripple effect was felt over from whoever or whichever suppliers that were receiving from these ports. So many other ports. We're talking Yanchang, we're talking Shanghai, and just recently in Ningbo in China, there has been a couple of lockdowns that have led to scarcity of equipment. And also some of these things are mainly moving forward just post-pandemic period. Now, we know the COVID-19 ended a couple of years ago now, but the effects are still being faced until now. What happens is that suppliers and consumers are now planning way ahead for their deliveries. You have been making orders when you need them 15 days into the order running out. Now you have to make your plans and make your orders and arrange with your suppliers a month or even 2 months before. So this helps to mitigate this kind of thing. So this is what is happening. So we can avoid it. A couple of times you will face scarcity of equipment, and there's nothing much you or your freight forwarder can do unless the equipment is available and book it on the next available schedule. The landscape, acquisitions and mergers with big players in the market, in the shipping industry. We're talking large companies that are merging in order to be able to make their services smoother and keep flowing well. You see, to be honest with you, a couple of years there has been discussions of mergers, but only until recently a lot of mergers have happened, and that has led many big players bring large companies together to be able to support and make their flow in the supply chain smoother and smoother. But of course, I'll mention a couple of these mergers. Right, one of them is Maersk, AP Moller, Maersk taking over Sealand, P&O, and Hamburg Süd. Imagine these three players who have been running independently come together. Imagine that kind of logistical firepower that brings to the freight industry. This is just one of them. The other would be CMA CGM taking over NOL and APL. Again, look at that kind of merging that increases the strength of that conglomerated group together. Then you look at what has happened with Hapag. Hapag now also taking over DAL, which would be Duchi Afrique Linen. I don't even want to pretend that I can pronounce that right, but that gets you to understand that that player is a key player in the African market. Further acquisitions by the same Hapag group would be UASC and CSAV. All these coming together to be, adding more, firepower to the group. And then imagine one network, a combination of three Japanese shipping companies. That all just brings together a lot of things. What could this mean for you? This could mean maybe a smoother flow of goods, maybe reduced time frame for when you can receive your goods. Lead time definitely leads to a shorter lead time for you to be able to receive your goods, and that makes you be able to satisfy your customers well. But also, what does that mean for the freight forwarder who's handling the same situation and the shipment right from the supplier all the way to your warehouse? Now, this is another challenge, but also which is an opportunity. The biggest platform for the biggest challenge to mergers always leads to a cut down or a lockout on the on the freight forwarders part of it, but again does not eliminate the use of the freight forwarder. The freight forwarders would be still so significant in a way that the freight forwarders may handle more personally shipments of their customers. They may be more intellectual or maybe experienced in the fact that they're able to move shipments within a country or within a region. So that doesn't take away the freight forwarder. It just gives them the ability to increase their levels in especially clearing and also being able to drive goods to the last mileage to the customer, and also be able to smoothly handle the processes within their region and their countries. So moving forward, let's just not forget congestions, port congestions. You cannot be able to speak about trends in shipping industry and not be able to mention port congestions, because these are coming from many factors. Some of these places have been receiving a lot of port congestions. For example, as I mentioned before, now those who are having a lot of equipment coming from China and main ports such as Jiangxi, Shanghai, as well as recently Ningbo. A resurgence of COVID has led to the lockdowns of these ports. That has led to equipment being scarce. It has led to lead time being affected. It has led to rates increasing. Some of these factories are in places that are still in lockdown or were in lockdown, and at the time of this video, just right now, Ningbo has completed the lockdown in just last month. So you will find that your goods are ready, your manufacturers informed you of the readiness, but at the end of the day, the goods have not been able to leave their factory and move all the way to the port. Right, another part of it is my favorite. One of my favorite ones would be the digitization and automation industry. We're talking about technology advancement in the shipping industry. So with a lot of new technologies coming on board, like blockchain. For those who don't know blockchain, this is a platform that brings together a ledger of transactions that are open and not being able to be controlled by one person or a company or a group radioactively, but can be able to be done with permission. So blockchain coming on board, big data. And for those who don't know big data, this is a lot of data that cannot be used by the normal software. And then we're talking about AI technology. Now interestingly, most of these major players, the major shipping lines, have adopted or are beginning to jump on board to these type of new technologies. And that what means for this is another smooth flow into shipments. This can be negatively affecting, but most of it also positively affecting, in a way that it depends on how you receive it. But progress is always good. But at the end of the day, you can realize there has been smoother in terms of flow of goods from one point to the other. There has been ease at which tracing and tracking of real-time container movement is being done, and this is whereby you can actually just pinpoint, just pick a container number and use several platforms to be able to track a container, and you'll be able to find where that container is and service your customer if you're the freight forwarder, or if you're that logistics person who's extremely useful to your company in areas of being smart in the freight industry. You can physically track these containers by yourself. So new technologies have come on board and has been very helpful and has been supportive in a way that it has led to decreased lead time, it has led to lowering of the cost, and also because of this technology and ability for these major players in terms of the shipping industry, for example, these large liners, they're able to actually physically get these customers by themselves, and you as a supplier or you as an end consumer are able to interact directly with the liner and be able to place your shipment in transit. And eventually freight forwarders coming on board to clear them. So these are just trends that are happening in the industry. You can't control some of these things, but technology is coming in and technology is moving forward. Now imagine mergers that I've mentioned before between major large shipping lines coming together, and also players are coming on board and merging into one to use big data, AI, blockchain to be able to run their logistics procedures, helping them helping them eliminate a lot of lead time, helping them to be able to smoothly eliminate a lot of paperwork in their work. Environmental factors is one of the things that are happening right now as a trend, as a global trend, which means these environmental factors are not only being driven by the liners themselves. There are a lot of regulations that are being passed that are moving around in terms of green supply chain, which means less carbon emission, less hurting to the planet is what I'm talking about here. So many shipping lines, for example, the large vessels are now deploying technology they are not deploying before. For example, installing scrubbers. And what are these scrubbers? This is a technology used to be able to reduce the amount of pollution that is being emitted by these vessels as they move around. Now, definitely whenever there is installing something, whenever there is introduction of a new system that has not been happening by the shipping line, you know what that does? It increases the cost. It goes back to the end consumer. Then another thing would be focus on using vessels that are using LNG, right? This is liquid natural gas. This is a process whereby instead of the normal used fuel, the vessels are now moving on to using less pollution fuels that are driving their ships. So LNG is being moved on towards, and that also increases the costs. So environmental factors you cannot control, but you can only feel the significance and only be able to arrange yourself to mitigate any challenges that might come by it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the discussion for what I've just put across there. So if you're new to my channel, I would like to thank you for coming on board, and for those who haven't yet subscribed, please click the subscribe button. So let's go on and get to know each other more. Alright, so hopefully we might discover and discuss more in terms of air freight and challenges and the trends in the industry of air freight, in the part of air freight section. So if you're interested in any of these sections, you can put your comment on the list below, or you can put your comment below and mention what you want to discuss more in terms of shipping. So as of now, I'd like to sign out and cheers and thank you for watching. Until now, bye.